and actually never learned to be empathetic towards other people, and really never learned to become attached or bonded with somebody else, a caregiver. And that's the problem, and we can resolve it in adulthood simply by giving them a hug, maybe a musical instrument and a puppy dog, and they're all going to be okay. Give them lots of love and understanding. With a psychopath, I would argue that emotion is like being colorblind for them, and nothing we can do is actually going to instill a sense of empathy. This is really a waste of time. Biologically, or neurobiologically, the mechanisms that should impart affect or emotion to one's cognitions and thoughts and attitudes are not working properly in psychopaths.
But are psychopaths born or shaped by their environment? Is it nature or nurture that has so distorted their emotional makeup?
There are some individuals who come from fantastic home backgrounds, dedicated parents, all the advantages in the world, and yet they grow up to become these psychopathic, violent monsters later in life. And you ask the question, how the heck did they get there?
If you were a scientist, as an experiment, you decided to try to create a psychopath by actually having all the right circumstances that you thought would create one, I suspect you'd fail at that. It's not something that one can actually cause environmentally.
But there are those who argue that deeply traumatic influences in early childhood will surely have a damaging effect on an otherwise normal child, possibly causing psychopathy.
People are going to say if you've been abused as a child, if you've been deprived as a child, if your environment's been so shocking, then inevitably that's going to have consequences in the way that you impact on your environment and on other people. But it's just not enough. It's an inadequate answer. If you look at areas of deprivation in the world, if you look at third world countries, you look at children who've got nothing, who've been abused, they don't turn automatically into psychopaths. This is something which is innate to the child, which the child is born with. Not, I would stress, directly inherited. It's not that your dad's a psychopath and you're a psychopath, but much more to do with a combination of genes working together or not working properly together that create a predisposition for this.
Martin Smedley works with seriously disturbed children at a leading London hospital. He's certain there are signs of psychopathy in some of them who are very young, but current medical practice forbids him to diagnose it.
You can't call a child a psychopath. You can't call a child somebody with a personality disorder. One is still of the view that children can change, that actually change can take place over time, and that a personality disorder is something which you have as an adult and not as a child. I think there are also sort of ethical considerations for taking a small child and saying, well, this person's a psychopath. It has a certain sense of inevitability about it, of incurableness about it, and one doesn't want to look at children in that way. I think one needs to intervene as early as possible if there's any suspicion that this child is likely to develop a personality disorder, is likely to become psychopathic, or is showing signs of psychopathy. One needs to be able to identify what those signs are and intervene.
In Britain, medical ethics forbid the diagnosis of personality disorders in juveniles. Therefore, treating psychopathy at an early age, however advisable, is difficult. And anyway, remedial intervention, when the root cause of the condition is unknown, at best can only be guesswork.
We're a complex mix of social, familial, genetic and biological processes, but we've almost entirely excluded biological processes from our understanding of crime, violence and psychopathy. I'm absolutely convinced by the research, by the science, that there is a biological basis to psychopathic violent behavior.
A biological basis to the condition raises the question, can psychopaths fairly be held responsible for their actions? As scientists move closer to pinpointing the cause, it's a moral issue that society will have to confront. There is a growing consensus among the experts that psychopathy is a specific biological condition, the result of a malfunction in the brain. Bob Hare's psychopathy checklist is the accepted benchmark for identifying psychopaths. It could also be the key that unlocks the cause of the condition.
A lot of people say that this concept of psychopathy is nothing more than a myth, and people have said that it's a moral judgment masquerading as science. Well, if we define people according to this cluster of characteristics, do they have brain images for a particular task that are different from those of other individuals? And the answer is definitely yes.
Hare has been using brain scanning techniques to determine whether the mental processes of the psychopath are different from those of the non-psychopath. If they are, it could be revealed in brain images.
Some of the brain imaging research that my group and other groups in several parts of the world are now conducting indicates that it appears that the psychopath has difficulty in actually processing, understanding, and using emotional material. Now, is this because they are biologically put together differently, they are wired differently right from birth, or are the brain differences that we observe the result of using different strategies to perform the tasks that we use? We just don't know that yet.
In one experiment, a psychopath's response to emotive words is tested, and the brain activity it produces is compared to that of a non-psychopath. The difference is significant. The white areas denote parts of the brain that are actively processing an emotional response to the words. In the brain of the non-psychopath, there is considerable activity. In the psychopath's brain, there is far less. It seems that there is less emotional involvement. Hare's research into the workings of psychopaths' brains is encouraging. It's clear that there are striking differences in areas that are associated with processing emotions.
We're interested in what parts of the brain are activated when you're looking at something neutral in connotation, an ordinary picture of a person or an object, or looking at something that has intense emotional connotation, something that's very negative, very disturbing to most people. And our prediction, of course, is that the psychopaths will not show the same activation of the same brain regions that we would observe in normal people. There's a lot of current interest in limbic system. The limbic system is extremely important in processing and producing emotional material. One part of the limbic system that plays an extremely important role in emotionality is amygdala. And one could argue that the amygdala is the problem. There's something wrong with the way the amygdala functions.
James Blair lectures on developmental psychology at University College London. His research into psychopathy has focused on the part of the brain called the amygdala.
The amygdala is a small structure that is housed underneath temporal cortex, almost in the middle of your brain, that's crucial for emotion and particularly emotional learning. It's most important for the generation of fear, and also seems to be very crucial in processing sad faces. From some of the imaging work we've done, we've shown that if you show a sad face to another human being, you see activation of the amygdala. I'm going to be showing you some pictures on this screen over here, and whilst I'm showing you these, I'm going to be measuring your emotional reactions with these electrodes. Basically what they do is they pick up the degree to which you're sweating when you're looking at the pictures.
Blair is convinced his research shows that the cause of psychopathy is in the amygdala, that it functions differently in the psychopath from the non-psychopath.
When you're looking at the pictures, you have to give a score between 1 and 10. 1 being you hate the picture, never want to see it again. 10 being it's an excellent picture, you wouldn't mind having that picture on your wall. And that's it.
1. 3. 5.
There is various strands of evidence, though, all pointing towards the fact that there may be some problems in amygdala.